This is TWiT.
Android Auto is another example where it's projecting your phone onto the car's screen. And actually, this is the introduction of wireless Android Auto. So Apple's going to do wireless CarPlay, and Android 11 has wireless Android Auto. So you don't have to connect. Used to you have to connect with a cable. I think that's an example. I think the idea is that this data and computing power that you're holding in your hand should manifest itself in other places, like on your eyes or on your car's screen, or I don't know, on your Google Assistant.
So if you want it, you carry a little globule, a little computer globule on you somewhere, and you can have it on your phone, you can have it on the nearest TV, you can have it on a wall, you can have it on your glasses. It doesn't matter. The computing is occurring, but the interaction can be anywhere.
Yes. It's computing at the edge, right, Stacey? Isn't that what the...
Yes, if we would like to call it computing at the edge, sure.
I would like to.
I mean, it is. It is this idea. Think about it less as computing as the edge, and think about it more as distributed computing. Yeah. So you're putting the compute where it needs to be.
It's locally distributed, as opposed to
centralized.
The internet,
but it doesn't.
Right?
Yeah.
What's interesting is if we could figure out ways to do this and share identity in a way that is acceptable to the user, and in a way that is scalable and not controlled by like one corporation, we could have a lot of really interesting where like my computer glob, for lack of a better word, talks.
Hey, I like it.
Come in. Yeah, I'm like computer glob. I walk into a restaurant, the computer glob can say to, the restaurant, hey, Stacey's allergic to bell peppers and she hates the following music. And that may or may not be interesting to the restaurant.
I can't wait till your computer glob is fighting the other guy's computer glob because he says, I like that music. And
well, and that's what's kind of fun is figuring out, like, in a world where you have all of your preferences traveling with you, how do you mediate a shared environment, which we're seeing at a very small level in the smart home, right?
Yep.
And we're doing a terrible job at it.
But it's early days, and I think you nailed it, because in effect, that's what your phone is your glob, because your identity is in there, and especially with fingerprint or face recognition, it's a pretty strong identity token. It has all your preferences in there. It has the computing power to share it, spread it. It's got the radios to do the same. The one thing that is missing from your description is it's not ecumenical. It's either Google or Apple. It's not cross-platform. So I agree with you. We need something that is not tied to a company that does this. But right now, you're going to choose Google or Apple. I could see you design
that, and it could switch on and off. It could license Android, it could license Apple, it could go back and forth. Stacey, obviously, Karsten loves you best.
Why do you say
the show title already here is Stacey's computer glob.
No, but I think, Stacey, you're onto something. I actually think that's an actual description of where we're headed. Except for that one, piece where it's... But, there are people like Tim Berners-Lee. In fact, I can now kind of a little bit more understand what TBL was trying to do. He started a new company. He's, of course, the inventor of the web. And he started a new company that was kind of around that idea of controlling your data, having an enclave where your data is stored, and then there'd be various manifestations of it.
Well, that's a little bit different, because that's your data as opposed to your connectivity.
Well, no, it's the idea of your data and your identity. It's not – the idea is the connectivity is a solved problem. The next problem to solve is, like, how do you share your preferences in a way? It's basically – think about it like you've got to create a directory of people, right? And you've got to have an active directory of, like, who can access what – and who can share what things. And it has to be federated across any service out there. And that's where you're like, because we don't even have one identity. And we may not want one identity.
This is Solid, is what he calls it. It's the Solid project. And actually, there's a new website. I'm looking at the MIT version. Solid is a technology like the web, but a new level of standard which adds the existing protocols to make it more powerful, and particularly to empower individuals at home and work. That's a singularly awful vision statement. But It's a single global logon. It's a place to store securely and privately your information. I mean, it really is the phone, because without internet connectivity, without connectivity of any kind, it's useless. It's a blob. It's literally a paperweight. But
it's a glob. Get your
glob or blob.
It's a glob, not a blob.
Okay,
it's a glob,
so a blob has no connectivity. A glob has connectivity.
Yes.
Right. So, but Stacey, I'm going to disagree to an extent. In essence, now the entire internet comes down to your phone, and that's where it stops, right? What we're saying with what you're saying with that is that no, now the entire internet comes down to your glob, but it can go back out to the restaurant, to the nearest TV, to your car, to whatever. So there is a connectivity out from the glob that still needs to be solved. It's solvable. Well, it's very solvable, but it's not presented as a product yet.
So it's not the connectivity that needs to be, and maybe I'm thinking you're being more technical than you are, so that's my bad if so. But we have connectivity that allows us to talk to like our glob, our phone, to talk to other globs in the restaurant.
It's not productized anywhere.
Solid assumes connectivity. All Solid talks about is a place to put your data and protocols to talk to other globs, but it assumes connectivity. Otherwise, it makes no sense at all. So I still would submit that it's kind of like maybe a secure enclave in your iPhone or Knox in your Samsung phone. It's a secure space only you have the keys to, where you put your stuff, your data, and then you have the permissions. You share it, but you still need the hardware around it, whether it's a web server or a smartphone or something. Otherwise, it's nonsensical that you can't share it. That doesn't make any difference if you have it.
I'm trying to make up what GLOB would stand for. Chat room?
A global location only
biome.
Biome. That's it. Global location.
Blob.
Location oriented biome. Your global location oriented biome.
And so you can breathe.
I think that's very good. I think this is it. We've solved it.
We have solved the future of computing right here.
Well, it seems to be. It seems to be, though, there's some consensus that we need some control over our data.
Yes. And identity.
And identity. Yep.
Right. Or identities, plural.
Yep. So let me read what Wikipedia says. The project, actually, and this is a quote, aims to radically change the way web applications work today, resulting in true data ownership as well as improved privacy by developing a platform for linked data applications that are completely decentralized and fully under users' control rather than controlled by other entities. The ultimate goal of Solid is to allow users to have full control of their own data, including access control and storage location. I think that's exactly what we're talking about, right? And the phone just is a logical candidate because it's basically your pocket computer.
Well, you have a dongle in your pocket.
Yeah.
And it can talk to a piece of glass if you like using that.
Right.
It can talk to other things. Doesn't matter.
Right.
Right.
So when he first announced
what's the business model for that?
Do we have a dongle or a glob?
It's a
glob has to have a dongle. Yeah. Yeah, but if you don't have a dongle on your glob.
You know what, Stacey? It's a virtual dongle because it can plug into anything without the actual plug. So it's a glob.
Quick, ask who's on first.
Glob.
Are there cookies involved with this dongle glob?
Yes, we'll just call them something else so you moral panic people don't get all scared of them. But the business model for this becomes a problem because how does Apple make money? By selling you phones.
You pay for it. You pay for this and you create a service around it. So you say to yourself,
it's a service business, not a hardware business anymore.
Right. You say, is it worth it for me for the world to adapt itself to me as an individual and my wants and needs whenever I go places, and I will pay for that?
Yes.
We'll call it a concierge service.
You know who wins that maybe first is Amazon.
Yes, very possibly.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
You're gonna need to negotiate with commercial entities for a number of things. Your blob storage could be Dropbox, could be your iPhone, could be Apple. So you want a trusted partner that you could say, here, you have to keep this secure, and I'm the only one who has access to it. You have to have a company like Apple create the access mechanisms, whether it's Face ID or Touch ID or whatever. Yep. And then you also have to have somebody provide the connectivity. What we're talking about is something that computing's always needed, which is protocols, agreed upon ways of communicating. So I can say, for instance, okay, I allow this restaurant to know what my food preferences are. You'd have to have that.
And you're going to need data models for all of those different scenarios. Right. And this is why I said you got to call the IETF.
Right, because you need an XML schema for food preferences.
All right, so you're Reid Hoffman, who just started a new fund, and he's waiting for a company to buy
of LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, right? So it's one of those backwards IPO things where he has the fund and it'll buy a company to make it. That's how it goes public without having to go public.
Yep.
So you're Reid Hoffman and you're an entrepreneur and you're going to disrupt Google, Apple, Amazon.
It's funny you should call it that because Tim Berners-Lee's commercial entity to do this is called Inrupt.
Oh,
so you're kind of not far off. Okay, go ahead.
Actually, that sounds painful. So you're going to start I got a bad inrupt in my side here. Oh,
I prefer an X-rupt if you don't mind.
Yeah. So what company do you start to do this? You were the obnoxious.
I feel like this is something that would actually be started at a big company and spun out into an open source project. So I feel like it's like an Ethernet kind of situation that was invented. Was it who invented it?
Bob
Xerox?
Metcalf
3M?
at 3M. Yeah.
I know Bob Metcalf.
Yeah.
Ugh. Sorry.
Wow.
What did he ever do to you?
Holy cow. Jeez. Is there a story there?
Oh, man.
No, every time I have to interview Bob Metcalf, everything boils down to Ethernet. I'm like, I get
Didn't you do anything else, Bob?
That is your hammer. Everything.
3Com, not 3M. 3Com. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, Stacey, the good news is the Glob is going to replace the Ethernet, so he's done with. You'll never have to interview him again once the Glob exists.
Like it's fine. I just you get excited.
I know you talk to Vince Cerf and all he wants to talk about is the internet, the internet, the internet, the internet. Come on.
I know you did that, but let's talk about something new and exciting. What's next?
Leo Laporte talks about podcasts.
Podcasts.
Ay, ay, ay.